Well, I don't even know how to segue to this next one, but we got to get into it.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah, let's
We got
go.
to get into the NBA agency model. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this one. I wrote a thing on how I think the new hotspot for Klutch Sports agency. And when I write these things, people get very defensive about it. They act like I don't know, making some sort of negative accusation. I'm just observing. I look at this model as viable in a way, if not flawed, or let's say has its vulnerabilities when these teams join with these agencies. I think Klutch Sports has observed the Joe Bidenification of Greg Popovich. I guess it does sound negative now that I describe it that way. They've observed that and they've moved in and they've got a lot of influence. People have said that Brian Wright has an association, the GM of the Spurs, with Klutch. And the new coach that they've hired, the assistant coach, and you're seeing it down the line. And then they signed this De'Aaron Fox contract, $229 million, 4-year max contract extension. It's a big contract. A lot of people would say it's not a good contract. What is your view of the agency model? We've seen it to varying degrees. We've seen it with CAA and the Knicks merging like the NFL and ESPN. We've seen it with the Dan Fagan Mavericks. We've seen it with the Lakers, LeBron and Klutch formerly. We've seen it with Schwartz and the Milwaukee Bucks. Is this model actually bad, or what do you think?
I mean, that's the natural course of business. Just in sports, outside of sports, anywhere in life, people do business with folks that they're familiar with and they have relationships with that allow them to be able to do things that they might not necessarily always be able to do. In the instance of the Spurs, I think that they were in a, this is without any direct, talking to anyone, research, whatever, just I can put 2 and 2 together. I think in this instance, they didn't think they were going to get the number 2 pick in the draft. So they were planning to get Fox to be their point guard of the future. So and then they have Castle, who's like a combo guard, so they could just play together. But they somehow ended up getting the number 2 pick in the draft, and they get Dylan Harper's the consensus number 2, who's also another guard. So now they have 3 of the similar type players, or players that you could argue to play the same position. But the way things work in business is when we hope James Harden would in certain instances would say that some people
not all handshake deals are honored.
But for the most part, my experience in the NBA is when someone of that status tells you that, hey, we're going to trade for you and we're going to extend you and we're going to do this and this is the number they're going to do it. They're going to follow up with that. So it's hard for me to jump to conclusions about what might be going on there, where people are like, oh, this is overpay, or they didn't need to pay him because they got these other guys that see what happens. That's not the way human nature works. If you told this guy, we're your destination, come here, we're going to extend you, you got his agent behind it, all of that, and sorry, we got Dylan Harper now, right? Things are going to it's going to hit the fan.
Maybe from the Spurs fan perspective, you might want your GM to act a little bit like what Daryl Morey was accused of acting like. And your perspective might be, if you guys weren't so clutched up in the way you are, where it's clutch up and down the line, you'd be cold calculating, and you'd say, look, Mr. Fox, situation changed. We didn't know Wemby was going to get this clot, and we didn't know that we would get this high pick and get another guard. I don't want to give you $229 million. It's a different thing. And I guess I just forgot about that situation. Now, from the agent perspective, I see you shaking your head. That's bad, and bad medicine right there.
It's not just from an agent perspective. It's from a player perspective. Players pay attention to this stuff. So they are like, first of all, San Antonio, despite all their success, they're still a small market. So they can't just be pissing off everybody from, left and right. They don't have the power to necessarily do that. The Lakers
part of this.
The Lakers can tell people to fuck off because there's guys that are just going to want to play there no matter what. Right. But the Spurs and small market teams, they have to be conscious of this stuff. They have a young star, Wemby, who's, you will have no idea what his opinions are, how close he's gotten to Fox already, all of these things. And imagine he's like, yeah, I'm ready. I got this veteran. I'm ready to go. And all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, we got the number 2 pick in the draft. We don't need him. Fuck him. We're not going to pay him what we told him we're going to pay him.
Yeah.
You're risking this guy going, oh, is that how you guys are going to treat me? What if I get hurt? You're not going to pay me, right? Like you have that down the line.
Fox might really blow up too, because they might have sold this as he's got family in Texas,
yes,
but he's really the first big free agent I can remember saying, I want to go to San Antonio.
LaMarcus Aldridge too, or those are the two.
Oh, I forgot that.
The 2015 free agency, he came there. But yeah, those are really the two. And so this is a rare, and maybe once every 10 years they get a guy, right? So like that just juggling that and managing that is difficult. But from the other side of it, what you're describing, I think that happens in all areas of business. It's a common thing, and fans want teams to be ruthless. They're looking at things oftentimes they're looking at things from a on paper perspective, from a spreadsheet perspective. They're thinking about it from that way. But the reality of that is the reality of the NBA is that it is a people business, and you can't operate cold-blooded because things just don't work out that way. People have long memories. Obviously, it worked. Who's to say that he would have broken his leg in Utah? But I'll give you a perfect example. Utah tried to play hard, because I hear this all the time with people about restricted free agencies, restricted free agents and extending rookies and all this stuff. Utah had Gordon Hayward. They didn't want to extend him. They let him go to restricted free agency. They said, go out and get an offer and we'll match it, basically, right? Gordon Hayward blows up the next, a year after he extends, but he extends for 3 years after getting a 3-year extension from I guess they were the Bobcats at the time, but Charlotte gives them the extension. Now he's got an opportunity to become a free agent earlier because they didn't lock him up, and he's this top player that Utah has. There could have been an instance where it was Donovan Mitchell and Gordon Hayward before he broke his leg together on the same team.
Yeah,
they let the guy piss the guy off. So it's the first opportunity he had. What did he do? He goes to Boston, right? Like,
yeah,
tragically ends up breaking his leg, all that stuff on a fluke, like layup attempt, all that stuff. But the reality is they fucked that situation because they're trying to play the game that, a lot of people that aren't thinking about the human element, like number one, they would have had him for 5 years, 4 or 5 years locked up. And then he would have had, the way he looked at the organization would have been completely different because they took care of him. But in this instance, they didn't. So I think those are the things that fans and some media miss when they're giving that kind of perspective on these things.
Yeah, I understand it. There are obvious pratfalls, though, with the agency model. There are conflicts of interest.
Oh, for sure.
It would appear to have gotten the Lakers their, it wouldn't even appear to, it got the Lakers their 2020 bubble championship, whatever you feel about it. Klutch coming in and assuming control, like private equity or whatever we're referencing. And I think it also often follows, it's more the example of things having fallen apart than necessarily what causes a thing to fall apart. That there's such a power vacuum that now you need an agency model, I think, is what more often happens. I said Joe Bidenification of Popovich. That might have sounded cruel and bad. I'm not mocking any health struggles that he's had, but he clearly had lost his grip on power. He was less of a force. He was, frankly, past his prime. He's now president of ops. I don't know how that all works, but when he was more on it, he was a force of stability in conjunction with Duncan and everybody else. But as he faded, whatever we regard as Spurs culture could not remain. And so suddenly, I guess it's time to bring in another culture. And that's part of what happens here.
Yeah. And in this instance, I would say also the boxes that you mentioned, right? So, Fox being from Texas and his wife being from San Antonio, and the fact that he's like, I want to play there. And again, when's the last time a player, with all the rumors that were around, people are like, oh, Giannis is going to want to go to San Antonio. And I'm always like, do you want Giannis to go to San Antonio, or does he want to go to San Antonio? Are you media person that loves San Antonio, the Spurs and everything they represent? You want that to happen? Is that where he wants to go?
Yeah.
If he ever wanted to leave Milwaukee, I'm not sure that would be his first choice, despite like the visions that everyone has of it. So when you have an entity like the Spurs, they're building, new facilities, new arenas, new all this stuff. They're like, we got to get the new guy. We got to get this thing going again. And when you have someone that wants to join in, it's hard to not be captured in that instance. But on the Lakers side of things, when you were bringing that up, it's interesting to look back because I think that they did get some benefits from it. But a lot of the failure, even though people point out the clutch aspect, the failure wasn't, and maybe you can say this was just letting LeBron have too much say or whoever wanted this to happen. But the failure for the Lakers was the Russell Westbrook trade. Like that is what it wasn't getting access to sign clutch guys to me. Like the failure to me was they sold their chips in. They made an all-in move for Russell Westbrook. That was there's no other way around it. It was a complete failure, right? Like complete failure. And that's what that's basically what like ended the LeBron era the way that we thought the LeBron 80 era, the way that we thought it was going to be, is that they went all in on a move that didn't work. And it had nothing to do with a particular clutch player. So I would say, to balance that out, because we always hear that stuff, it's like, maybe there's another way of looking at it.
Yes. If only Caruso had signed with Klutch, maybe they could have avoided some of the problems that they ran into.
That's a good question, right? Because like there is an example where, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. This is just me going off of my top of my head. But what I remember is Horton Tucker got paid, who was a clutch guy, and Alex Caruso didn't. And who knows what the decisions were and why it happened that way and how they were evaluating the players and whatever else. And the thing is, this game, again, I'm couching this stuff on intentionally because I think sometimes people come on and they make, bold statements about certain things that should have happened, had to happen, whatever. Like, dude, these things are difficult. Like, it's not like analysis is not always on point. But I would love to look back and see like why was that decision made? For instance, was that because if that was purely this guy is with this agency and this guy isn't, then that's fucked up. But like I don't know for sure that's the case. It could be we drafted Taylor Horton Tucker and we thought he was going to be. We think he's going to be this, and that happens, right? But yeah, that's the curiosity there.
Well, the agency does have mutual interest. In the agency model, the agency has mutual interest with the team. And I referenced in the New York article on Rich Paul, where he's rooting hard for the Lakers at that time of the article and describing them as we. It's just tricky because their responsibility is also to the player, and they drive a hard bargain. Give them their credit. Give Rich Paul his credit. They get a lot of guys paid quite a lot of money, and that's often at cross purposes with what the team wants. So there's just a lot of conflict of interest there. But I threw out some chum in the water. I don't usually do this.
Yeah.
This is a little speculative. I just threw it out there in my article. I want your perspective on it. You mentioned Giannis probably doesn't want to go to San Antonio.
Yeah.
Don't you think if the Spurs are with Klutch in the way they are, LeBron is unhappy with the Lakers and the way he is, the assets, the situations are what they are. Is it crazy to say that LeBron James' final act should be with the San Antonio Spurs?
I just don't see it. Like, because it's the Spurs, like the Spurs are revered internally within the NBA and with like the media themselves. But like beyond people that are just like in that world, the Spurs aren't revered like that. LeBron is all about doing the things that are going to make it seem like it's the biggest story ever, right? Like maybe if Wemby was already to the status of like, where LeBron was or Steph was or whatever in terms of being a brand, like it would make sense, but right now it really doesn't. And, I'm 40 plus and I know how it is to get used to certain things and you don't want to change your routines and you don't want to do whatever. That guy is not going to live in San Antonio. And I'm sure his family is not going to live. And this is no diss to San Antonio itself, but I'm just telling you.
It kind of is.
Yeah,
A little bit.
I could live in San Antonio is what I'm saying.
I could too.
I don't think he could. He's
too big for that town, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I could live in a Texas suburb in San Antonio, and I could do that. That makes a lot of sense. But these guys, they feel too big for these cities in a way that's hard for us to really communicate.
Yes. And so it's not necessarily not being the city or the organization. It's just that you have to take these. It's just like what I said with Giannis, right? He is Milwaukee, so you understand that. But if he ever leaves, he's not. He is someone like him is only leaving to go after something big, right? Like otherwise, what's the point of leaving? And the same thing I would say with LeBron. Like LeBron is of a status that everything is chasing something bigger, not necessarily like trying to minimize what he's doing.
You know what that would feel like? It would feel like if a team years ago said, we're firing Stan Van Gundy and we're hiring Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. This guy, too much of a hard ass, gets on the players. They've had enough of it. Let's replace him with his brother. That's what it feels like.